either way, being 7:02, I'd like to open the planning board meeting for February 3rd, 2021. First up on our agenda, we have Tim Reardon Builders in Hammond Woods Flexible Subdivision Annual Extension Request. We're all familiar with this subdivision off of, Hammond Hill Road. An ongoing subdivision.
Yeah, I don't see Mr. Reardon here at the meeting tonight. I'll just give you an update on the site.
Okay.
All the homes have been completed and actually sold at this point. The only thing that hasn't been done, there might be some clean out on the detention basins, but he hasn't installed the street lights. It's been the ongoing issue forever. Just recently, he tried to do solar lights, and the town said, no, we're not interested. No, because
you're not interested in solar lights?
Well, Jerry wasn't interested in solar lights.
Okay.
Because it's not something that Jerry can really make the decision on. It would have to go, because it's in the bylaws for whatever type of lights that we have currently, that would require an amendment that might be at a town meeting. So we can't just do it because they want to do it. It's not necessarily a bad thing, but
right.
But his electrician asked about that option, and I said, well, the planning board can't really make that decision, and Jerry said, I can't really make that decision. So Mr. Reardon could give it a shot and request, talk to the Board of Selectmen, or whether the town's interested in amending the bylaws to allow for solar lighting.
It's a town bylaw, Randy?
Right, it's in our subdivision regulations, of what type of lighting is installed. But I guess they've had, they've been working with National Grid all these years, that whatever an agreement the town has with National Grid is for servicing whatever type of lighting that we currently have. The town's even been talking with National Grid about changing over to LED lighting for street lights, because right now I believe they use mercury vapor. So, as we all know, nobody's really sure. The conduit is in place for the street lights on Hammond Hill Road. Mr. Reardon says it is, but we're not sure about that.
So he thinks that there's conduit in place in the subdivision easement road, part of the road?
Yeah.
All right, so I guess why is he looking at doing the solar option then? He should just be able to locate those conduits and find those strips and put his light pole bases in and.
Yes.
All right.
I think it's less money for him, to be honest with you. His electrician, if you do the solar option, you can put in a base and the solar light and you're done. With the conduit, you got to run all the wire. You got to find it, run all the wire, and then put the bases and the lights in.
Okay. All right, I guess.
Who was, sorry, through the chair.
Go right ahead.
So who was responsible for putting the lighting in? Mass Electric or National Grid was responsible for doing it, or was he responsible for doing it and National Grid hooking it up? Did we ever figure that out?
He's responsible for installing all the lines in the bases, and National Grid would come and install the lights. And they but he hasn't done anything yet. But it's his responsible to run all the wire in the ground, and it has to be whatever the conduit is, it has to be approved by National Grid. I think that might be where the sticking point is nobody really knows what's in the ground.
Do we know what the cost would be for the town to do that?
No, I could find out, but I don't know.
Now, just to give the history of the subdivision, Tim had purchased the subdivision from the bank, and when he purchased it, the road was in, the base coat of the road, all the drainage was in, all the underground electric services that run in the easement were in. And John Smith, speak up if you can, but just from going what general construction practices are, while you're doing your underground electric for the subdivision, you typically would lay the conduit for any street light posts and stuff. So Tim really had he didn't do the install of the road, the original road, being the base and drainage and all that stuff. National Grid does inspect it, but I guess from the information I think that Tim's provided to Randy is that has any history of an inspection for the street light conduit.
Well, anything that went in for the electrical conduit would be primaries at a much different level and a much different dig than what any surface lighting would be. So that surface lighting can go, just a couple feet down on the side of the road. It doesn't need to go 3 feet down with concrete encasement like the primaries would for the original.
Yeah, I don't know how that would be. But typically it'd generally be installed prior to, while they were putting in the rough grade for the road before they pave. In the instance where you would have to go under the roadway with any kind of conduit or anything like that. So I guess, Randy, do you know off the top of your head what the bond, or if you have in front of you the bond amount is remaining on this?
It's 100 and I think it's somewhere between 110 and 120,000, what we're currently holding, if I remember right. Now, Mike Andrade, because we had inspected before they put the road in, then Mike Andrade from Graves Engineer went back with Tim. He said that he felt comfortable the conduit was there. I can't say that he actually saw it, but he said he felt comfortable that it was there.
Then the question is, why aren't the streetlights installed? How long have we been dealing with this since last year?
Since I've been here. It's a couple of years now.
Well, and it was before that. I think it's been at least 3 years.
Yeah. So I guess anyone on the board feel free to chime in as far as he had the developers asking for an extension on the subdivision. Everything's complete except for these streetlights pretty much, and then any kind of minor loose ends before he could submit to have the town accept the road. I guess as a board, we want to put a time limit on I feel bad that it's for these residents that are living in the subdivision that even though the subdivision is complete and the towns, they're not getting town services such as the plowing, sanding, and whatnot. Just to kind of push the developer to get this done.
Yeah. And everything else has been done. The road's complete. The quality of the road now is acceptable to the town. It's just the lighting that is the sticking point at the moment. So, but on the same note, without the road being accepted, the property owners are responsible for the plowing of it. It's not even Mr. Reardon, so he really doesn't have an incentive to finish it. So they only really, the only thing that we have to get him to do it is the authority the planning board has, and it's right here at this extension. Can you grant him an extension for say 6 months and come in the meantime, come on with proof of how you're going to install the lighting, or show that it has been done, so that it can, the subdivision can be completed and the road should be accepted at, say, the fall town meeting or whenever it's ready. It depends on him.
I'm at the point now where I'm saying pull the bond and just do it ourselves. That's kind of where I'm leaning right now. That's all that's left, and we think there's enough bond money to do it.
Well, let me verify that, just so make sure we do have enough money. Why don't we hold off the decision till maybe our next meeting to get a confirmation on the numbers so that it's a number that we're satisfied we have adequate amount of money to complete it, to get it completed. Since we're not in a rush that we have to make the decision tonight, so.
No, that's fine. Yeah. You know, it would be good if he came in with a plan. I'd feel more comfortable, but I'm not sure he has a plan.
We aren't either.
Yeah. And everything else looks like it's ready to go. It's just, this is the one last sticking point is
Yeah,
the surface lighting.
he might have a little bit of cleaning out of one of the detention basins, but that's very minor, you know, a day's work. So that's very simple to take care of. So,
Also,
I'm sorry.
you also check with Jerry Foskett just to make sure that he has, just before we go, as far as just if he has anything that popped up on his inspection, as far as anything that would need to be cleared up before he'd give it the stamp to say, yeah, go ahead, I'll send it to town meeting for approval, just to be sure.
Right. It's also one of Jerry's is very adamant on, and I can't disagree with him at all. Is there supposed to be a light at the intersection of Hammond Hill Road and I can't remember the street that goes in there. Mr. Reardon is aware of that. There's supposed to be a light at that intersection down at the bottom of the hill where the subdivision road meets Hammond Hill Road, because that is a dark area. I mean, it's supposed to be done at any intersection, but the plan didn't show that, but the subdivision regulations do require that. And Jerry, I mean, everybody has spoken to Mr. Reardon. He is well aware that light also needs to be installed.
All right, anyone else from the board have a comment on this, on what Don proposed?
My feeling is we wait till the next meeting and make sure that what we're holding is enough. It seems like no one's really positive that what's in the ground what should be in the ground is in the ground, and that could have a big impact on the cost, no?
You are correct.
Okay.
I agree with Gene.
Still like to hear what his plan is too, though.
Yeah, and this is Bill through the chair. My only comment would be, I mean, the leverage we have is holding the bond. I guess that hasn't motivated them to finish it off yet. Do we need to, you know, send them a letter? These are the checklist items that you need to complete before we return your bond, or, you know, would that help? Or is it just the bond has no influence on that?
We did that and he flipped out over the bond. This was about a year ago, and
Yes.
we sent him a letter about what needed to be completed for the bond, and he went nuts.
No, that's he doesn't understand what a bond is for. Or,
Oh,
I mean, that's
Oh, he does. He just thought that we were holding back too much.
yeah. It's agreed to well ahead of time. Yeah, we didn't change the amount, I'm guessing.
So I'd like to hear his plan, but I'm not sure if we have any other recourse other than pulling the bond and just getting it done. I mean, the poor people on this road have been living this dream for a while.
even the dog agrees.
All right. Okay, all right. We
John's
need
still
it.
trying to dial in so that he can say something, but no.
Nike, right? Belichick's dog, yeah.
I will reach out to him too, you know, so tell him that that he should attend the next meeting, and I'll explain to him exactly what's going on so that he's able to answer any questions and he understands what will happen if, the work isn't done to the satisfaction of the planning board at a time, in a timely manner to the satisfaction of the planning board. And also in the meantime, I'll try to get a number of what it would cost to have that work done, with and without the conduit, because I'm sure it probably has a significant different price.
Absolutely. All right, do you need to do a motion, Randy, on that, or
Uh,
it's just postponing the item?
yeah, we'll just postpone, take action till the next meeting, the February 17th meeting.
Okay. All right.
So, yeah, do we need a motion? I make a motion, we postpone this till the next meeting.
Second.
All right, all those in favor, Gene Vincent,
Aye.
Lisa Jick,
Aye.
John Smith. I don't know if John's having some audio problems.
No.
Okay, Don Clay,
Aye.
Bill Fontaine.
Aye.
All right, Ross Massey, aye. All right.
And Randy, you might want to just, another thing you can do is you can check with the wiring inspector to see if he has some idea. Joe might have some.
Okay. Good idea.
Of cost anyways.
On to our next agenda item, A&R, J&J Investment Properties LLC, 109 Ramshorn Road.
Yes, it's, I just finally recently, Donnie pointed out I hadn't shared the plan yet. See, it's a lot line adjustment, and it's a very unusual lot line adjustment, but both lots of developed properties with homes on them, and what they have done basically is moving the lot line on this rear portion of the property to take it from what is now the larger parcel, giving more land to the larger parcel and making the smaller parcel even smaller. It's been reviewed both by myself, Kurt Meskis, the zoning officer, to make sure that once the lot line is changed, it will conform to the zoning bylaws. I know it has this unusual stick section out the back, but they need to keep that portion of land to maintain the 60,000 square feet they need for minimum lot size in that zone. Hence the strange shape in the back. They didn't, the landowner of the larger lot to what would be the north side of this current driveway, they are planning to put a future building in, which is why they didn't want to have this smaller lot go back any further where it was close to the larger lot. That's how it ended up with the unusual shape.
So it's basically this section right here. Am I sharing my screen?
Yes, you are.
Yep, you are.
It's
That's the
this
section that's
here.
being, yeah, taken from one lot and given to the other.
Okay. And you said it's the smaller lot is still conforming?
Right. It's a pre-existing non-conforming where it doesn't have the frontage, but the frontage is not being affected by this. And since it's already a developed property with a home on it, they don't have to try to make the frontage of the smaller lot meet the existing regulations. They do have to meet the area and the setbacks and everything, which they do. So it does meet the current bylaws the way it's done. It's a little different, but it does work.
All right, are there any questions or comments from the board?
I don't have any.
None.
All right.
I'm good.
Okay.
Oh,
All right, so thank you. All right, hearing none, do I have a motion to approve this A&R?
Yeah, I'll make a motion to approve 109 Ramshorn Road A&R.
I'll second it.
second that motion.
Right.
John?
All right, all those in favor, Gene Vincent,
Aye.
Lisa Jick,
Aye.
John Smith.
Aye.
All right, Don Clay,
Aye.
Bill Fontaine,
Aye.
Ross Massey, aye. It is unanimous. All right, moving on to our 7:20 agenda item. We discussed the Economic Development Committee letter. At our last meeting, we had discussion about Randy's role on the EDC. They made the decision to send a letter to the selectmen as well as CC the Finance Committee. And I think I sent each board member the letter back from Andrew Golis in response to this. So thought we discuss it real quick and see what the move would be to move forward. And anyone has any comments, speak up. Let me know your thoughts, what you want to do. And I think Jean has some information as far as history, because she's.
Yeah, I've sort of looked into this and gone back over it. And as usual, ever since Randy joined us, the only thing that was ever certain was his original starting salary, which everything was fine. Then when when the town did their budget, Randy was almost overlooked and he got like a 1.1% increase, which we had discussions with. And that it was pointed out at that time that in the budget, the line item for his salary was approved at town meeting for $88,114. Reluctantly, I think it was reluctantly, the town said, okay, fine, that's his salary, because they wanted him to sign papers. I forget what they call that form, that for a lower amount. But after a couple of phone calls and everything, everybody agreed on the $88,114. Now, on the fiscal year 21, we had we requested $94,049 for fiscal year 21, which would have included a $6,000 increase for Randy taking over as the EDC director. That amount was not approved. So
That's it. I think it was actually removed before it went to town meeting. Oh yeah, it was removed before it went to town meeting, wasn't it?
Something like that.
Yeah.
But our request was denied for that salary, and I think it reverted back to something even lower than that. But Randy is still getting, what he was getting before. And my whole thing is, when I said, okay, fine, they don't want to finance for a EDC director, then maybe it should be run without a director and just let it fall back on the chair of the EDC committee to be responsible for posting the meetings, making sure everything complies, doing all the minutes and all that. Fine, Randy can be a member, or not a member, he can sit in on their meetings and, sort of direct them a little bit when they're obviously trying to do something that's not doable. I don't see any problem with that. But I just don't feel he should take on added responsibilities.
So, I mean, the EDC is going to it's going to be on them now also for all their public outreach and everything. Before
Correct.
Alan was doing it for them. And I mean, that was the whole intent of me doing it. And if, the town's choosing to do it this way, that's, their option. But that means they're going to be asking the volunteers on the EDC to do the work that the EDC director used to do.
Correct. And I think if we stick to our guns on that and Randy be available for the meetings and all that and give some suggestions or sort of guide them down the right road and not let them do something that shouldn't be done, I don't see a problem with that. But when we hired Randy, we knew that he was well capable of doing this. And that was our ultimate, not reasoning, but that was one of our ultimate things. And, but obviously that opinion is not shared. So, like I said, I don't have a problem myself with him attending the meetings and keeping them out of trouble a little bit, but nothing like what Alan was doing, was setting up like the shows down at the DCU Center and all that. That definitely would not be Randy's in his position to do that. You know, that would fall back on the chair of the EDC and EDC members who volunteer to do it.
And I think I'm in agreement with you. I think Randy attending the meetings is about all we can ask for. I think it's important that he attends them, but as far as running the meetings or doing all the extra stuff, I don't think it's his responsibility.
Randy, did he actually ask you to be the according to the letter, he said he had a discussion with you that you would willfully take on the director role? Was that where he was going with that?
He tried to get me to for a very far less number, and I said, no, thank you. I said I wasn't willing to do it for that.
And also it was mentioned at one point that it should be a stipend, not a salary, which none of us agreed to that.
Right, and I mean, the town can do it at once, but that means every year they would have to bring this up at budget. And what happens if it gets voted down at a town meeting? Does that mean I just stop being the EDC director? Because the town's not, you know, they're making it more complicated for themselves from a town standpoint, but because that means this would have to be revisited every single year.
I mean, going back.
This is Bill.
Go ahead,
Through the
Bill.
chair.
Yeah, go right ahead.
My comment would be just on the tone of the letter. Like I agree with the comment so far, like Randy shouldn't do it without compensation. I just think we may be a little out of bounds to say to the town or the Board of Selectmen he can't do it. Like Randy's free to do whatever he wants. It's not our place to say, you know, he can't do the EDC director job. It's up to Randy to decide. We would suggest that, you know, strongly suggest that he should get paid, obviously, for that. The only thing I guess we can really emphasize is that he cannot or should not, you know, that job shouldn't interfere with his current planning director role as far as, you know, taking away hours or you know, concentration on that planning director job.
Bill, if I can just comment on that a little bit, because I'm in an unusual position. I'm one of the few employees of the town that actually works for a board and not the town as a whole. So by having me in two different roles with two different bosses, so to speak, if I have the planning board telling me to do one thing and then the town administrator telling me to do something else and they conflict with each other, I'm obviously, you know, going to have a problem with, someone's going to have a problem with me either doing something that I'm not supposed to be doing or not doing something that they told me to do. It puts me in an awkward position, which is one of the main reasons why the EDC/planning director were always under the guise of the planning board. So we didn't have this issue. And by like attending meetings as a staff member and everything, I have no issue with that. But when it comes to acting as the EDC director outside of the purview of the planning board, I'm setting myself up to get in trouble. I mean, at some point in time, you know, something's going to happen. There's going to be a disagreement. The one person going to be telling me to do one thing, and somebody else is going to be telling me to do something different, and it puts me in an awkward position.
I agree. Now that you put it that way, you're right. So should we then say this position should be under, you know, report to the planning board, the EDC director? Is that?
That's a whole nother battle in and of itself.
Yes.
Yeah, that's a whole different strategy. Yeah.
And I
Bill, it
don't know-
really comes down to compensation. I mean, I think we all agreed that for him to attend the meetings and provide insight and be a planning board representative there is probably a good ask of them, and it's probably necessary. But to take on all that extracurricular activities of planning the shows, attending the shows, and planning the meetings, and doing that work, that's always been a paid position in the past, a separate paid
Right.
position. And now they're asking us to fund that underneath the planning board and allow him to do that or have him do that. And I'm not sure that's, the right thing.
Right.
All right, so I guess, Randy, would you be fine attending these during normal town hall hours, attending these quote unquote EDC meetings that they have, but not performing any of the extracurricular until you're rightfully compensated for it?
Well, I don't have any issue attending meetings like during regular hours as a staff member, for the planning board. I have no issue with that.
Okay. And is everyone else fine with that on the board?
Yeah, I mean, do we need to answer the letter, or do we just need to say, okay, we're encouraging Bill to, we're encouraging Randy to attend these EDC meetings during regular business hours as an attendee or a member only?
We could, or could we have a discussion with a couple of the select board members of the board of selectmen? Either way, and then I guess moving forward, I think that ultimately, Alicia, you can chime in here if I get something wrong. Can the EDC appoint who their director is? Like by a vote of the EDC committee members? Okay, there.
They did.
Yeah.
Alicia, you there?
They
Bill's
did.
there too.
I mean, that's back to if they vote, I believe they have the ability to vote for the person to lead them, but then that puts Randy back in the spot again. If he's
Yeah, but
has that position, he's gonna be between a rock and a hard spot.
the
You
thing
can
that
always refuse that.
yeah, but the thing I'm getting at is if it happens before budget time or right after budget time by town meeting, the money can be moved to fund that director position. If you get my drift, if there's gonna be pushback.
I think what the EDC board could do is vote their chair, vote a person as their chairman. That's perfectly within their organizational thing. I don't think they can ask somebody to be the director, but then that falls onto them to fund it.
Correct. Okay.
Right.
But that's
Right.
why-
I agree. Yeah, they can appoint or vote for a chairman, and it's been just, like everyone else on the board, a volunteer position.
Yeah.
Get someone to step up and do it.
Well, even from a financial standpoint, that's the other, we, in the planning board budget every year, there's a $1,900 and change that's specifically for EDC work, because it's always been under the planning board. And, the last couple of years, because nothing has happened, the money's just gone back into the general fund, it hasn't been spent. So, yeah, if they decide to do that and everything, they're gonna have to iron it all out, how it's gonna be handled, because.
Yeah. All right. It's never easy, but.
Yeah.
Through the chair, have they even formed they're still hashing all this stuff out, aren't they? They haven't
Well,
really-
here's the other problem. I attended the first meeting, and like I said, they have nobody's reaching out to them to make sure that anybody's coming to the meeting. So once again, they had no quorum because they have no leadership at this point. So they didn't have enough people to even have a quorum to organize the EDC and pick members, like chair, vice chair. So
Right, there's 9 people on that committee.
Yeah, which makes it,
They have appointed 9 people for their committee.
so it's a lot of people to have a quorum. So, I mean, and it's just like any other volunteer group. You have to reach out to them, keep them posted, remind them that the meeting's there. You know, it's part of the job, like as a director, just like we keep you posted on the meetings and everything, because people have lives and they don't remember every single thing they have to do. So we try to help out and remind people. And now with
So
9
that would
people,
fall-
it's a lot for a quorum.
Need 5.
Right, but that would fall on whoever the chairman of the EDC is. He would,
Right.
that person would take that responsibility. Now, if no
Right.
one is willing to take that responsibility as a chairman, then they have to look at something different. That's my feeling.
So maybe we, until they get form, and it's hard to have Randy have a role if we don't even know what,
Yeah.
what they're doing moving forward.
That's
You
the
know?
problem. They haven't been able to have a meeting since Alan stopped doing it because they haven't had a quorum in 3 years plus. I mean,
Well,
they
let's
met,
not
but
try to,
Go.
I mean, my comment would be, let's not try to fix the EDC. Let them organize. All we can do is suggest that Randy can certainly be a member, but we advised him not to be the director, and let them spin their, let them organize the EDC. But I think from a planning board, we can't tell you what to do, Randy, but we suggest that you don't, go in for the director because of the obligations, I guess, and the
So-
compensation, lack of compensation.
Yeah, there you go. Go
Yeah, I
ahead.
guess what we just say is that we won't allow director, EDC director tasks to be done on planning board budget.
Correct.
Right.
Well said, Don. So, all right.
So
move-
Bill, when you become the chair of the EDC,
I don't.
Yeah,
Can-
how much
can- I don't-
should I ask for a stipend for that?
Yeah, there you go.
Can we make a motion now?
Can you guys hear me? This is Steve Coronas. I'm trying to dial in from home.
No, we don't hear you, Steve.
Yeah.
Actually, what that was my dog that barked earlier. So I thought I had a venue here when the dog barked.
We
yes, he got our vote.
Hey, Steve,
So-
you got a comment before we move on?
What's that?
Do you have a comment or anything before we move on to our next item? 'Cause
I
it's-
do. I don't. Just as not even as a selectman, but just as a taxpayer and a citizen,
Yep.
I think that since we haven't had an EDC meeting in 2 years, and we had one, the letter might have been a little harsh or taken harsh.
Yep.
I think, and I heard one of Randy, Randy is, in my opinion, is totally qualified. I think his one comment that I had heard was that we didn't have a quorum. It wasn't that we didn't have a quorum. It's that it was our first organizational meeting. It was really kind of an introductional meeting. We were introducing each other to each other. And we realized at that point that many of us, including myself, didn't go down and get sworn in as EDC member.
I stand corrected. Steve is correct on that.
Yeah,
So I'm
So
speaking out of turn. Not having a quorum was actually not because people were there. You are correct.
yeah, correct. Right. And Randy, and you were very bright and right on. You were on game when you said that we can't really vote on anything because while we had a quorum, we didn't have a quorum that already went in and got sworn in, so we couldn't take a vote. So it was kind of a, hey, how you doing? Nice to see you. Let's figure out a few goals and objectives, and let's figure out how we're going. And it was very, it was 30,000 square foot, 30,000 feet level type. Let's figure out what we want to do. I don't know if Andrew's on this call. I couldn't sign in, but I'm assuming is Andrew on here?
He typically doesn't attend our meetings, so I can't say if he's here or not.
I'll see him on the list.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I mean,
Guys,
were you listening to the whole agenda item so you know what the direction that we're going? Did you catch
yeah, no, I listened and I hear it. But all I can say is the town needs an economic development commission. However we come around that and come to that is great, as long as we're moving forward. I personally, and I'm only speaking for myself, I think the planning board is an integral part of that. But
Steve, I would agree with you 100%. I mean, I think we need an EDC, and I think the planning director's input to the EDC is essential.
absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
don't think he's required to lead the meetings and do all the extra stuff that needs to be done for the meetings to get it to function correctly. That should be the responsibility of a paid EDC director, just like it is in every other town.
I can kind of agree with that, but for any volunteer board, whether it's anything that I've ever done in my life, Lions Club or whatever, or any the Little League, whatever, if I do like the approach of like a chairman and a vice chair and people, and so you designate people for outreach to realtors or outreach to, if anybody feels left out, guess what? They're not going to come back.
Sure.
They feel like what in my vision on this, it's only mine. We just don't want it run by 3 people. The committee, if you get 9 people, they're 9 very bright people, and all of them should have an input. And if they feel left out, guess what? They're going to go they're going to find something else to do that night, and then we're going to end. So it's a little push come to shove. I don't know enough about EDC to know what that role is for Randy, as far as any type of director. I honest, and I'm just being totally honest, I have no idea what that is. If it's 2 or 3 or 4 different seminars to attend per year, I can't imagine it's 1 a month or anything. If anybody knows any better, please, I'm all ears. I'm learning as I'm going here, but I want to be fair to everybody. And there definitely, in my opinion, there certainly needs to be a planning board connection though in this.
Absolutely.
We've always agreed on that. That's never not been our plan.
Yep. But we have to be cognizant of the other 8 members that may have a voice that gets muffled out because they're volunteering for something that they really care about.
I guess I'm confused there. How would their voice get muffled out? So we're not saying that we want that the EDC shouldn't exist. We're saying it should, and the planning director has an essential part of attending those meetings and providing input when needed. As far as the chairman goes for the EDC, they're free to elect, nominate and elect and whoever they want to be the chairman of that, and that's necessary too. There needs to be a chair and a vice chair for the meetings to go. But there has traditionally been more involved with running the meetings and setting up the meetings and planning the meetings that a paid director has always done. And that's the way it's been in the past. And if there is no paid director, then the chairman or a vice chair or another volunteer within the organization is going to have to do that. And that's just the way it's going to have to work.
And I think, Alicia, this is Bill. Alicia and I have been on the EDC for quite some time, over 10 years. And we've had the luxury of having the planning director be that person. There's a lot of administrative tasks to do. So, I mean, it's actually Jane and the planning director, setting up meetings, posting meetings, getting minutes. And, it seems like we're hitting the reset button on the EDC here. So maybe we can have a different structure, and the planning director attends as a member, and we see if we can elect someone that wants to take on, it's kind of pretty heavy in administrative tasks, but it's not like you were mentioning, Steve, it's not a monthly, an event that's a monthly thing, but, there are guests that you want to invite to talk to the EDC and, just communicate with other towns and planning, economic development committees around the state. So it is kind of heavy, and maybe the EDC can elect and someone will step up to be that chairperson that's not paid. But if not, then, you have to kind of rethink how we structure the EDC. But I think we've been lucky because it has been the planning director, and that obviously has worked, but maybe someone is willing to step up, and we see if that happens at the next EDC meeting.
I'm not saying that we don't need, personally for me, one of five, I'm not saying we don't need an EDC director. I'm just, I want this a group to be that I would like, my vision is to see this group as like everybody's involved. If you have not just a chairman and a vice chairman, but an outreach person, or person reaching out to realtors, or person reaching out to different people, to make that director's job easier. That's kind of my, right. And then you got a whole group thing. It's not,
that would be excellent if that would work. I mean, that would be ideal, I think. Keep in mind, though, that Randy is not a member of the EDC. There's 9 people, not including Randy. Randy can attend the meetings, as well as, like, Kurt, if you're still on. I know Kurt's have attended meetings. They're just attending the meetings to sort of oversee, to make sure everybody's not getting the town in trouble with bylaws and zoning, and can this go there and can that go there, or where could this go? That's not a problem at all. It's never been a problem for us. But it's like if you start to get into like the once a year deal down at the DCU Center, where, it was a 2-day event or a 1-day event, and that took quite a while to put it together, get it together, and make a go of it and make it successful. That's where the time and the energy and the money comes into it. Just to have Randy attend your monthly meetings or bi-monthly meetings or whatever you decide on is fine. And if this way your 9 members can voice more of their own opinions as to where they want to see and what they want the group to be. I think you need a couple more meetings to see how it's going to go. And maybe after a few meetings or after a couple of months, you'll find out that, yes, you can run it fine and it's working great for you, and Randy can just sort of sit back and attend the meetings, and that's perfectly fine.
Yeah, Jane, I'm not saying that's the direction we should go, but I was a little, I was a little disheartened that we had one, like, pretty much an introduction meeting just to kick it off, to rejuvenate. Mm-hmm. And then the board sent that letter saying, oh, he cannot attend anymore. And we're like, come on, we're all on the same team. We're all in the same town. We can.
Absolutely. And it's not a matter of him attending the meetings. It's just a matter of to what degree.
Yep.
You know, Steve,
my whole background is marketing. So if there's something that I could do, to, you know, that's to be able to maybe, well, we do a video or we do something. So if and when we go to the to the DCU Center and we have that, we've got a video we can show up on a screen and show what Charlton has to offer and all the other things that we have, all the other new things we have that other people might not know about. But we just that last meeting was so much in the infancy of the new EDC, to have that letter from the planning board just kind of like, it was like a shot across the bow a little bit. We'll work with you.
Steve,
I don't think it was intended that way at all, but.
Yeah, see, if I can just chime in on this a little bit too. We were going around in circles with this with Robin. You know, it has been a long time. This isn't like it just happened overnight with that night. This has been, I think the last communication I had before that was 2019. That was the last one, and there was some prior to that. That's how long this has been going on. It wasn't, you know, all of a sudden one night and this has happened. It's been going around in circles for a long time, and it just.
I think I understand the history, but you know what, guys and gals,
Thank you.
Robin and Alan aren't coming back. They're gone. We've got a fantastic. I can't. That EDC meeting, I was impressed with the amount of talent that was on that screen. Again, it's Zoom, right? So you really, but there's some really bright people in this group, and we ought to be energized behind that and push it forward, not try to detract from it. We can work out. There's some things we need to work out in the meantime, but just don't. I would just caution on any future infighting because of things that happened 6 or 7 years ago, or even 3 or 4 years ago. Because Alan and Robin aren't coming back, and that's whatever happened there that's history. That's already.
To the chair.
go right ahead, John.
We're just looking for a straight line here, Steve. We're not looking for reliving the past or crying about what happened in the past. We want a straight line to look professional, so we're not looking like we were in the past. Looking professional for anybody to come into this town. We have our line of communication. Our ducks are in a row. We're going to be able to facilitate any developer who could come in here. We have right answers for them as they come to your board, the EDC, like you can go there, you can't go there, you can do this, you talk to these people in the town, just a straight line. That's all we're looking for, a straight line. We're not saying that Randy cannot be part of that. We're saying that if he's to be the head of it or a main cog of it, that he should be compensated for it. We're not saying that he can't do anything or he can't advise or he can't sit in on a meeting, but for this EDC to properly move forward and put the town's best foot forward, we need a professional, straight line operation.
Let me, Steve, let's just, one more comment, one more fact. So Randy is an employee of the town. And how much time do we think is involved as a director of the EDC? How much work? 3 hours a week? It's not a lot. But at his current salary, 3 hours a week, 52 weeks a year is about $6,500, $6,000. And that's all we were saying that he should be compensated for, because he is an employee of the town. And if it's extra work, it's not the planning board's responsibility to run the EDC. We've got enough work on our plate. If he was going to do that extra work, it would be in addition to his planning board duties, which fills his time, and that he should be compensated for that extra work as a director of the EDC. If he should attend those meetings, absolutely. As a member, as a planning director, he should attend those meetings. It's the extra work that goes along with an EDC director that we felt shouldn't happen unless he was compensated for it.
Okay. And,
All right.
all right.
Steve,
I would just.
we have an agenda to follow here. We're gonna move on.
Okay.
All right. Go ahead. No, you can go. You got one last run at it. Go ahead. You want to say something? Do you have anything extra to add?
I have one more run at it.
Well, if you have one more last comment.
Quick. No. All right. I thank you for listening to me. I'm happy to hear the engagement. I'm not saying no. I'm not in a position to say yes because I'm only one of 5. But it was. I think your letter might have been a little premature, and I'm going to be blunt about that because we had one. It was almost a pre-organizational meeting, and let's just see what happens and how it unfolds. We can. But what I don't want to happen is this falls backwards and doesn't keep moving forward because of a little bit of the comments the letter was a little harsh. That's my personal opinion, but
Okay.
I think a conversation like this would have been much better.
Well, okay. All right, Steve, I guess that all right, thank you for your comments. All right, we're gonna move on, but we just laid the groundwork for going forward that we're gonna put it right out there, Randy. If you can, until he's reasonably or properly compensated, nothing above and beyond what we were gonna allow him to do. That's pretty much what it was.
Yeah, and I think your point was taken, Steve. I think we understand about the letter and we accept that.
Okay, cool. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, Steve.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on. We got our zoning bylaw diagnostic review workshop. I think that we left it last. We're gonna look at some of the allowed uses. I think, correct me if I'm wrong, Randy. Any of the ends in any of the zones on Route 20. If we're gonna consider changing any from ends to SPs.
Right, well, that was, under the use tables, actually, I'm glad Kurt, I think he's still here. Is Kurt still here? I gotta check my list. Oh, okay.
I think it would be great to get his input on this too. And
Yeah, because Kurt, because he's had to experience with this a lot, and it really has to do, I think one of the biggest obstacles he's had to deal with is allowed uses in the agricultural district, because there's some unusual ones in there that you wouldn't expect to be in what would be considered a primary residential district. And where the board, starting with that one, because I think it's one of the easier ones than some of the others, about what should or should not be allowed in the agricultural district. I mean, Kurt has brought up a point that things like hospitals and other uses that you wouldn't necessarily think about having in the agricultural district are actually a Y in their, allowed use in that district. So I didn't know if that's something the board wants to consider, looking at that district and allowing, primarily residential, agricultural type uses and taking away from the commercial type uses in those areas. That's something the board.
Sorry about that.
Here, Ross?
Yeah, go ahead, Don.
Can we, I just want to make a suggestion, and if we're going to go through the regulation schedule and the use table, maybe we go line by line and look at what's allowed in each district for each thing, and just kind of go, instead of just looking at the agriculture, let's look right across for each principal use and where it's allowed and where it's not allowed. And there's quite a few here, but if we do it that way, I think it might be a little bit better to go say yes, yes, no, special permit, permitted.
I have no problem with that, and it might actually give Kurt an opportunity to chime in areas he knows that are problem areas, I guess.
Ross,
Go right ahead, Kurt.
so as we approached this project over a year ago, I wrote you guys a letter and said, you need to decide what the intents and purposes are for each zone, okay? and then make the use table align with those intents and purposes. It is going to be a huge undertaking. What you will have to do it is go through this line by line. But when, as some examples that have been brought up that I bring up regularly, is if the agricultural zone is to be a residential zone only, which appears which most of the citizenry of Charlton seem to think it is, then make the table align with that and don't allow hospitals with site plan review in the agricultural zone.
Right.
Interesting thing came up today or yesterday. I had a real estate agent ask me the parcel on the left-hand side, just as you go down Old Worcester Road, the vacant parcel that's been used as a lay-down yard for various projects. Okay, so we all know what we're talking about.
Yep, behind the old Southwood Savings Bank.
Yeah. Okay, so a medical or dental professional office is allowed there with site plan review. A veterinary office is not allowed. Does that make sense?
No.
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 Now, I had to tell now, but veterinary offices are allowed in the A zone with site plan review, in the CB zone with site plan review, in the RSE zone with site plan review, in neighborhood business with site plan review, and in the industrial general zone, they're allowed with the Y.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can.
That is the stuff. Bars and grills are allowed with the Y in the CB zone, but a restaurant needs a site plan review.
Yeah. We need a lot of work here.
So just going through and turning all the N's in the CB zone to SP, I don't know that you want to do that. I think you want to look at what the intents and purposes are and what you want to see in these zones. And then make sure that you fit the intents and purposes. And maybe we should rename agriculture to residential. Maybe we should allow two-family homes on larger lots in what we now call the A zone when they're actually only allowed in an R40 zone, which is a smaller lot zone. Those are the kind of things. Now I can go through the whole table and mark it all up for you for my wish list, and I'd be happy to do that for you. It might take me a couple of weeks, but I'll get it done. But unless either through the master plan, which I don't know is going to change a lot. I think the community is going to say they want development along Route 20 again and 169. And then we're going to say that we want to preserve the nice environs and bubonic outlying area for residential construction. And I think that's perfectly fine for the community. It's just that when, every time I have to say yes to something because it's in the table as an allowed, something that's allowed or comparable to something that's allowed, and then those who are raising objections to it read these intents and purposes that set these goals that aren't matched is the biggest problem with the table. So I'll get off my box now.
Great information.
And I agree with you, Kurt. You're exactly right.
Yeah, I always appreciate the input.
No.
All right, so we're gonna do the line by line.
So do you want to go over the district intents and purposes first and see if we agree with what's there? There's a lot of work here, and I don't think we're going to get through it tonight, but that's also part of the zoning diagnostics that we're going through, right?
Right.
Are we overlapping what Ron's doing, Randy, or?
This
Yeah,
will
I
definitely
mean,
overlap with what Ron's doing, but it'll give us some insight going into what we're getting from Ron to see if it kind of fits in with what we expect.
yeah, I
I guess
mean, the
Go ahead.
people on this board know the town far better than Ron ever will. So, you know, I think that the board taking the time to go through, particularly in the districts like the A district, is always a hot button one. So at least starting with that and starting to go through the districts on what, just like Kurt was saying, whether it should be in the district or, you know, how the board wants to view it going forward. I think Kurt actually described it pretty well. I think what the intent, the town as a whole, what everybody would like to see as far as where there would be development as opposed to where there would not be development.
So up on the screen here,
Right.
up on the screen here is the district intents that are in the zoning manual, and I'm not sure if these are still what we expect. I've looked through them, and I think they're kind of what I expect or understand that the people in the town kind of expect, or previous boards expected. But like Kurt was saying, they don't really align with what's permitted.
Well, I think the intent, like for agriculture, there was a question before, actually, you know, Patsy, the prior chairman, had brought up, is a more appropriate term in today's world be called something like rural residential versus agricultural, or given the fact that, you know, there's the town turning to more rural residential, then, you know, it's losing a lot of the agricultural route just because land's being developed everywhere. You know, the amount of farms that are left anymore, it's not really what you would consider agriculture. That maybe more rural residential would be just a more appropriate term. Do you think is there any appetite for that, or would you just rather stay with agricultural?
Either that or
Yeah.
R60.
Yeah, I'd personally like to take agriculture out of the title of the zone, because I think too many people get hung up on that agricultural word. And just like Don said, R60, and then R40 is the next residential zone in town.
Rural residential, R60, large lot residential, however we want to put it, as long as there's an R in there, I think.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I thought the word rural, which would give the intent that it's meant to be large lot and not, you know, high density development out in those areas.
Any other opinions?
I mean, because you look like you have low residential, low density residential is R40. So if you did rural residential R60, you know, they would kind of be in line with each other. The R40 and the R60 determines the lot size.
I mean, my opinion is we definitely need to re-look at not only the naming, but as Kurt said, just what's the strategy of such a zone, and put it on paper, and then go through the use table. So I mean, that's like the sequence of events would be to reconsider the zones themselves, rename the zones, put it on paper, and then a subsequent step would be to go through the use table and change it all around. I mean, I don't know how we facilitate that. Do we do it individually, type it up and submit it and then discuss it? Or do you want to go through each zone, you know, on a live phone call? That may be a difficult thing to try to facilitate.
Do we want to look at these district intents and purposes as they're written right now in the zoning and see if we still agree with that? That might be a good place to start.
Yeah, you know, based on,
Right.
This might be the best thing to focus on this tonight.
Yep.
And then see if we can tighten these up or make any changes if we think it's necessary. Or
And I've got a zoning map of what we have here now, and kind of looks like a jigsaw puzzle, but we can align it with that. So, Bill, do you have a computer on you, or are you just on the phone?
I'm just on phone.
Okay. So I'm displaying the zoning regulations up on the screen right now, and it has a written explanation of each zoning that we have in here. And kind of what the intents and purposes are expected to be. So we could, does everybody see that on the screen?
Yes.
Okay. Everybody but Bill?
Yeah, sorry.
That's good.
You didn't take a bylaw with him on vacation?
Come on, Bill.
I
A little
know.
light reading?
Where'd I put that? Where'd I put that thing?
Hold up the end of a couch or something.
So even the first couple words, I think you need to change, Don, because I mean, it says provide for agriculture and lowest density residential sites. I think,
Just through the chair, I think the first one was written or defined only because the town was an agricultural town forever, you know. and
Right.
That was more, and if you want to preserve some of that, is there some type of just an agricultural, just a plain blank agricultural zone, or which would be allowed, just to make it have an agricultural with just the short definition, and then do your R40 and on top of that, just to allow for agriculture to exist in this town still, you know?
Well,
and actually, go ahead, John, on the use chart, very first thing, it's allowed in every single zone.
yeah,
Right, and don't change that. So it's a matter of right in every zone.
Okay.
yes, that's correct.
That in the chart.
So you need to be aware that the statute, okay, allows for agricultural in Massachusetts by right on parcels of 5 acres or more. And you can't regulate that.
Kurt,
Beyond that.
would it be, is it a right to farm town? Would that take care of any of
No,
that? You
no,
know?
just the statute itself, the 40, I'd have to look at it, just say 40A section something or other.
Is that the Dover
Preserves-
Amendment?
No, that has to do with churches and schools and educational uses is the Dover Amendment.
What would happen if people under 5 acres would want to, you know,
So you're allowed to regulate on less than 5 acres. There is another part of the statute that has to do with 2 acres. Okay, but 5 acres or more absolutely is a preserved right to farm. Now, the key to that is that it has to be a bona fide farm. Okay, because to get that, to be that exempt, it's like saying I'm a school because I teach widget making. Is that a bona fide educational use? That may be questionable. Okay, if I'm the Montessori school, that is an educational use. That's a bona fide educational use that would be covered by the Dover Amendment and the ability to run an educational institution pretty much anywhere. So that's what happens. We try to regulate agriculture because of horses and chickens and stuff on less than 40,000 square feet, or actually less than 60,000 square feet and less a couple of town meetings ago. Now a couple might mean 5 at this point. And it was shot down. We asked the planning board and myself and Board of Health, because of the small lots in some places and the neighbors' concern, it was asked to have them be site plan reviewed, and that was shot down by town meeting. Now, things change, but there are certain statutory exemptions, you know, that you have to preserve. So we'll keep you out of those.
All right.
Actually, if everybody can see it on the screen that Don's done, he's actually done some amendment, just the quick amendments he's done to the first one, the agricultural one. And if you look at it in there, it still has in there protecting the character of the historic, rural, and agricultural environment. So it's still, you know, listing that's an important, you know, attribute to Charlton to preserve our rural and agricultural, you know, property. So we're, even though it's being renamed to maybe what's more appropriate in today's world, it's still not forgetting that, you know, there's an agricultural basis for it too.
Gotcha.
Because I'm also not only looking at, you know, what we think is appropriate, you know, we'll have however many residents to answer to at town meeting. And I guess it's the last time this was done that this was a hot button issue about not wanting to lose the agricultural heritage of the town. So we're just naming it more appropriate, but we're still leaving the agricultural heritage in there so that people will recognize that.
We still have a lot of farms that are just growing solar panels now.
Yeah. They don't eat much, you know.
So I don't know, can everybody except for, sorry, Bill, everybody else see this? Gene, do you see any issues with this first one?
Just I would just line out the A, Don, like you did the other ones, but on the, yeah. That works.
Okay.
Could you just make a note, Don, that it was the old, in case we go back and say if we make all these changes, what the old one was, or
Yeah, I mean, what I can do is I can just
leave it. If you leave it like that, that's fine. You know, just
I can just do a cross out there.
all right.
There
Great.
you go.
So basically what we've done is we've removed the name agriculture from the name and called it rural residential R60. And then it said to provide for agriculture and lowest density. We've removed for agriculture and just said to provide for lowest density residential sites while at the same time encouraging open space, preserving or enhancing views, protecting the character of historic rural and agriculture environs, preserving or enhancing visual landscapes, recognizing site and area limitations for on-site wastewater disposal systems in terms of drainage, soil suitability, proximity to surface and aquifer and other subsurface water resources in the slope. So that's just what we've redefined agriculture to be. Anybody have any other suggestions there or omissions or additions?
No, I actually think that's a nice change and still maintaining most of the, you know.
Okay. Okay. So the next one would be low density residential R40. And right now it says to provide sites for low density residential development with respect to existing character of neighborhood homes and properties, including compatible related home oriented activities and pursuits in a rural environment. What are home oriented activities?
That's what I was just thinking.
Is that a front porch swing and a tire swing out in the back, or is that
Swimming pool?
Swimming pool businesses, home businesses? Is that, you know, considered home oriented activities? In COVID time, it really is, but
Yeah.
what I guess I struggle with that one a little bit because I just don't understand what home oriented activities are.
Kurt, have
So
you,
why is it low density if you allow smaller lots?
That's a good question. So is it more of a high density residential?
Well, I think now you have to look at what you allow in the table, right? Because
Yep.
if you, as I'm sort, you know, and I'm not looking at a table right now. I know we allow duplexes by right, okay, with a Y in the R40 zone.
Mhm.
And we might allow multifamily. in the R40 zone,
Yep.
which is 3 or more,
Yeah, with a P, yeah.
okay?
I
That
guess-
means, so I could build an apartment building next to a single-family home in this district. And you wanna, do we wanna look at what areas those are?
Well, it says with respect to the existing character of the neighborhood. So that's where you get in trouble there because it's subjective.
Mhm.
Right, but here I'm going to point out again, here's a sort of goal statement that doesn't meet the chart, right? Because if I'm in a older neighborhood where we have a bunch of houses on smaller lots close together, you're saying, well, you want to have this thing, but I allow an apartment building.
It's basically anything yellow here, right?
Yeah,
Yep.
R40.
So
Now-
R40 also, so a portion of that R40 is Osgood Road and City Depot Road and up into the depot. And that's was put forward because one, it was densely packed to start with when we did zoning. And two, that there's sewage available there.
Well, that was actually just going to be my question to you, Kurt, on what we have on our existing zoning map, how much of it actually has sewage? I mean, going down Mugget Hill Road, the sewer doesn't go down there, does it?
There is sewage down the bottom of it.
But
But
up here by like Bay Path and everything, is there sewage there?
Nope. Center of town, there's sewage.
Right,
Ford Dresser Hill towards Route 20, there's sewage.
right.
Down a little bit down Burlingame Road to the bottom of the hill is sewage.
So, because my question was this R40, if it's it could be, it's a higher density development, providing it has, public sewer, because, obviously you need enough land to put a septic system on
Right.
and you can only build so much density to, based on whether you need, how big a septic system you need.
Right. Yeah, and there's a footnote in the area table that if you're on sewage, you can have a smaller lot size than if you aren't on sewage. And then some of this, like R40 out off of Route 20, I think was set up because that's where we wanted to encourage, if it was built, 1987, right? This is when the bylaws went in play.
Yeah,
This is where they wanted multifamily. We wanted that kind of development along Route 20, not out in the rural part of Charlton.
You're almost saying, well, it should run hand in hand with the services available to build on these lots. So,
well, that's why I was wondering if it should,
I think it's a lot of work that we need to do with this map too. And
yes, definitely.
So I think, you've considered this discussion and you move on to the next one because this is going to take some thought and coordination thinking about it,
yeah.
Maybe a note, do we want to call it that? I don't know.
Yeah, that one definitely, I think we'll have to address it. I don't think the way it's written now is appropriate for what it should be.
Okay.
I don't know what the right answer is off the top of my head.
I mean, these could be some of the questions we can ask our man to see if he has a better heading, a better title for these areas, if he's seen it.
All right, you want to move on to residential small enterprise?
Yep. I mean, I think
Okay.
this one pretty much speaks for itself. based on what it is. Don, can you just pop the map up real fast?
Yep.
So we just have that area. The only thing I'm thinking about here is, do we really want to limit to, or should we take out low density? It says medium density, medium and low density. Based on the area it is and the location.
Well, let's take a look at one other thing while we're up here now, and let's kind of look at that area. Help me orient myself here a little bit. Okay, so we're basically talking. Sorry.
Charlton City, right, Don?
Yeah, kind of Charlton City all the way up to H. Putnam Road, on the south side of the turnpike. Is that about right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So up to where a little bit past Stafford Street. This is H. Putnam Road here. So right around from H. Putnam Road, all the way back through the city, and just west of the Stafford Street intersection off the back there. Is this old Sturbridge Road?
Yeah.
Old Stockbridge Road, yeah.
Is that old Sturbridge Road through there? And then up back where, yeah, can't think of the name of the road now, but yeah. So basically from where the storage facility is going in all the way up to just past the Methodist Church on Stafford Street. And then all the way to Route 20 and across, Trolley Crossing. So that's kind of what it is now. And is it mostly built up there? I mean, is there a lot of open space there that can be built? There's a lot of water, a lot of swamp.
Yeah,
Whole lot
there
of
is, like, that's what I was thinking. If you, like, on the north side of 20, if you were to go up and then get on the Stafford Street, in between there, there's a lot of unbuildable land. So I think that takes care of itself.
Yeah, I mean, this is the land that just got rezoned. So we're talking about this land up behind here. It's a Methodist church. This is the old campground.
Yep.
The old wood
Yeah.
lot. There is a little bit of land up through here along Route 20, but a lot of it's swamp. And of course, there's the land up here off of just before on Old Brookfield Road, on the other side from where the solar farm's going to go in here.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit of room there.
Is that just vacant land right now? There's nothing
Yeah.
on it?
Yeah, I
Correct.
don't know. Yeah.
So, I mean, there's higher density development already in that area on Brookfield Road,
Yeah.
right
Yeah, this
before
is
you
all
go,
the old mill houses
Yeah.
up in through here.
right.
So let's go back to that.
So, I mean, that's a minimum lot size of 40,000 square feet anyway, so it's, the only difference is it does allow for some commercial in that area as well. It's not just
Which there's
limiting
a lot of commercial in there anyways.
Right.
Now, so yeah, okay. So we're okay with this as is, or anybody have any
Well,
additions or additions?
Well, the thing I saw was a low density. I mean, it allows for it, but do you really need the low density? Is 40,000 square feet considered low density, I guess? It's an acre, a little under.
Yeah. I mean, we can question whether we want to call that low density or not, or come up with another word of it. I'll
Right.
highlight that.
Okay.
Good. Move on to the next one.
Yep.
Yeah, neighborhood business.
Neighborhood business. Why is this different than community business? And is it just a matter of where this got set up to begin with? I don't know. So to provide site for small-scale business development for local and transient services compatible with low and medium density residential development within village settings, which through landscape and design and thought and thorough preservation enhance the natural landscape and the historic environments. At the same time, protecting any existing views, minimizing the visibility of parked cars, avoiding the appearance of commercial strips, as well as congestion in the abutting streets and ways, and retaining the character and the quality of life in the rural New England village. So these are businesses that are set off in the back and don't really stick out. Is that what we're asking?
I think it's to try to give that village feeling without, you know, hiding the cars and all that good stuff. But I don't see, I mean, isn't that essentially what our village business district is trying to do already?
Yeah, I mean,
I see a lot of overlap there. Yeah.
Yeah. It seems
So,
like
I
the
mean,
village
the
business
village-
district is, yeah, the village district, to me, kind of, it's redundant with the village district. I mean,
the village district was trying to push everything up close to the street and kind of give it that small little village feel, I guess, was the intention for that. I don't know, Kurt, maybe you remember when that happened and how that happened.
Yeah, that I would agree with that statement. It was and the other part it was trying to give us was the option for some businesses that weren't home occupations, okay, which is its own separate ball of wax, with some residential units over it. So the first building that came in after the village district was codified was the convenience store across from Station 2, or the old highway garage.
Yep.
And when that was first presented, it was presented with an apartment over it. And it was permitted. It went through the planning board site plan review process, and then it was modified to take the apartment away. So it's an allowed use. It's a small retail shop, less than 12,000 square feet, which is allowed with the P in that zone. But that, was it.
So
and that's a great example of a new zone that was created. I can't remember any history where we've actually subsumed a zone or gotten rid of a zone. So maybe this is an opportunity to do that.
Yeah, to me, when I read this, both districts are trying to accomplish the same thing. They put the buildings close to the street, put the cars in the back so you don't have to see them, to create the village feeling. It seems like both districts are two different means to the same end, so it seems redundant to me.
And I think if you look at where this is neighborhood business, right?
Yeah.
The neighborhood business zone is up by Ronnie's in the depot, right? I'm not looking at the map.
Yep.
And is Dresser Hill.
I don't even think it's Dresser Hill. No.
Yeah, it's a little teeny thing. I'm pointing at it, but you can't see it.
Right where the
go down towards Dudley.
Oh, yeah. I see it now. I thought that was a smudge on my screen. Yeah, okay.
So the same sort of thing. You may want to think about this. You may want to think about how it's worded, and if you want something different between village and neighborhood business.
Yeah.
And maybe they need to be totally different places.
Right.
Through the chair, Don?
John.
Were these created around existing businesses? Because that's where the dairy farm is, and up north I mean, is that why they named them these, just to try to incorporate what was there and kind of encourage more development like that? Is that?
I would guess that that's probably true. There was some, you know, like there's a IG, I think it is, the mill, what I call the upper mill, 6 City Depot Road, is a piece of IG in the middle of RSE.
Yeah.
I mean, we're trying, to our point, it's like, if we can consolidate or call, many of these businesses probably in this NB up by Ronnie's don't even exist anymore. You know, Ronnie's does, but I'm thinking that there's that little mill up there across the street. There was a little, looked like there was some type of an old building try to become something in there back in the day. And I don't know what's in that larger building. Ross, you know better than I do, the larger building.
Up by the railroad?
Yeah.
Or the building that Charter was in.
Yeah.
Oh, where the
Skip
people
Bellreeves.
used to be.
It used to have a great little breakfast place.
Yeah.
Well, many of these have gone by the wayside. I mean, Dresser Hill Dairy's still up and running, the little dairy farm's up and running, but maybe we look at what we're trying to accomplish and looking back in the day, what was presented, because the businesses that were actually functioning back when this map was drawn.
I was gonna say, this map was drawn to signify what businesses were there at the time, not what we wanted to be, what we were, not what we wanted to be, I guess.
Let's be bold and redraw that and redefine, and combine these things. They're so related. There's so much overlap there.
Yeah. Well, I can see the difference between neighborhood business and village just by the way the lots are laid out. But should they be different? I don't know. I guess we need to look at that further.
Well, I mean, if you look at the one thing too, is I don't even know if neighborhood business fits either of those laws. You think of the Clam Shack, or you think of Ronnie's, I mean, the cars all parked in front of them. I mean, none of this fits what those properties are today. If you're reading this description doesn't even come close to fitting what Ronnie's is or the Clam Shack, If we want to try to keep those like businesses in conformity, but this definition isn't doing it.
Should we just change neighborhood to clam and fish businesses?
Yeah, there you go. Seafood.
Clam Shack District.
No, I mean, I see what you mean. Yeah. So, what do we expect there? And obviously that's not what we have there. Are we stifling development because of this? I mean, is there other things that could go up there and still fit in with what's there?
I think we really, I mean, I know it's on Dresser Hill, but as far as I'm not familiar enough with the area around Ronnie's to see what else is there. Like, is there room where there possibly could be some, smaller type businesses that go in that area as well as Ronnie's?
Yeah.
There might be room for that.
Maybe we're digging in too deep on what they're called and need to look more at the use table to see what's really allowed there.
Yeah, that's true.
And I guess you have to look at what you don't want there. Look at the negatives of that. So to protect it, you don't want industrial, for sure. But any business, retail, farm stand should be within the purview of that. Both of those zones. Whether the cars are parking back, then there's some limit, and where parking has to be considered. But
are we looking for something that's under a certain square footage to go in there, or just because there is a lot of residential in that area too?
Well, that's why if you were considering commercial, you probably should keep it on a smaller scale. Maybe limiting the size of the building or something. I don't know.
Why wouldn't that be like a small, why wouldn't that neighborhood business be a small enterprise residential then, you know?
That's a, right.
Put some of the language into, of 4 into 3 and call everything SRE, R-SE.
Yeah, I guess that's another question too, is why, how is this different than this?
Yeah,
Well, I
kind of.
don't because
Yeah,
the Mill
how,
Village
how
right
small
there.
is, yeah,
The
how
Mill Village
small is small?
Well, that might be a way to fix it though, if you can combine the two into one definition, and then it resolves the problem, and you expand it a little bit so that you could include more businesses besides the two, restaurants. But because, like, where Ronnie's and the Clam Shack are, that maybe some of these other things you did want to include. So it's not like they're building in town, they're building out in the countryside a little bit. So you give a little bit of protection for the neighbors should something commercial go in there without
Yeah,
making it overly cumbersome.
I wouldn't think anybody's looking to develop next to up on Dresser Hill or another building up there.
So I think it's all farm around owned by the same farm, isn't it? I don't,
So why can't we make that back to residential R60 and just have that non-conforming business? Would that be a better thing, Kurt? Is to have something that's non-conforming in an R40 than to have this little NB district that's the size of a postage stamp and one lot?
That, that's what would happen, and that's what even, so that's a pre-existing non-conforming use.
Yep.
Possibly. I mean, it got made conforming because it got that designation, but Charlton Furniture,
Yep.
right, is in a zone. That's a retail establishment, over 12,000 square feet. Their newer building, the old building's a chicken farm. But that other building is, was an expansion to a pre-existing non-conforming use. So that's allowed. The statute allows for that to happen through a process through the Zoning Board of Appeals if it's really appropriate.
So it wouldn't be a problem changing that NB district out by Dresser Hill to an R60 or whatever rural residential.
Nope.
That would help protect some of that other properties that are out there.
Right.
yeah, and if they're damaged by fire or anything, they're allowed to rebuild within a certain period of time anyways, Kurt, right? If it's a
Yes.
non-conforming use, so
Yes.
they're protected,
Okay.
I think if you look at going back to the depot, I think you want to leave some flexibility for some smaller scale business development there, because you do have the old Larry's Garage that may be something. You do have what I refer to as Skip Bellry's building, which is a pretty good sized building at this point. Matt Leone, I think, owns that now.
That's the big building that Charter used to be in.
Yep, Charter was one. There's a dance studio.
Yep.
There's it's a mixed use building. There's like 6 apartments in there. There was a froyo shop a long time ago.
There was a restaurant there, made a good breakfast place.
Yep, the Depot Espresso.
Yeah.
There was a furniture guy in there or a upholster in there for a while. So, you don't want to make it so hard for some, even though it's pre-existing non-conforming, you want to allow some flexibility that they don't have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals to get special permission if the building is there, or, what happens if somebody came in and wanted to take Larry's Garage down and rebuild a new auto repair place there? I think, we should make some allowance for that to happen without having to jump through a bunch of hoops.
Yeah, I'm not saying change that area. What I'm more referring to is the Dresser Hill lot.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only lot that's neighborhood business right now on that street. Okay.
Mhm.
Yeah, and honestly, we haven't had, I mean, we haven't had any people wishing to do anything that'd be considered commercial in that area. You know, there hasn't been anybody, any desire for it. So I don't think you'd be thwarting any development or anything like that by changing that over.
And as Randy said, the Bigelow Nurseries bought most of that, owns most all of Dresser Hill except for the Clam Shack, that residential house behind it, and some there. But that's all, I think, under a some sort of farm protection conservation restriction. That was one of the things that made that work, that Bigelow Nurseries went there, that they were going to preserve that buyout that the state did years ago.
Oh, so they can't really change that anyways. I mean, they're limited.
They
by
could,
that.
but they have to buy the agricultural whatever it was back.
Yeah, it's usually cost prohibitive. You know, they do that on purpose. Yes, you can always do it, but it's just cost prohibitive most of the time.
Okay. You wanna move on from neighborhood business now and
Yeah.
take a look at CB? So our CB region is, I'm trying to look at this now. So this was actually changed to BEP over here, all on this side. So it's just basically the south side of Route 20 from, I don't know, what's Old Worcester Road, just before Old Worcester Road? Actually,
Yeah.
from Old Worcester Road, except for this little piece of the farm, all the way over to H. Putnam Extension and the church. And then it continues on down the bottom of the hill. What is health, help me with this.
Oh, Harrington? Oh, oh,
From,
the green
right around
gold.
that corner, all the way down to 169, then down 169.
Then you have another section out on the Route 20. Yep.
Yes.
Which
so
is
from Old Worcester Road out east to the Oxford line.
right.
Now, we've got a whole bunch of sections in here that aren't, but this is all residential in here now. But, you know, what about this area here? And do we bring Village all the way out here? This is kind of a weird notch here, and maybe that's because that was all one property at one time.
That is.
Yeah, property
That-
owner request.
Yeah.
And does that make sense to have a village district out here up against Route 20?
It's all one parcel. I think it fronts North Main Street, I think.
Yeah. That's the Miller
Correct.
property, Ross.
Yep.
And it goes all the way through, just like the other part of Village that's to the left lower.
Okay.
That's all Masonic Home property that goes all the way out to T Hall Road. And that was done as one whole parcel.
Okay. So, yeah, which is odd. So now, in the middle of this residential district, anything that gets built out here, it can be commercial, but it's got to be, what, 25 feet from the road?
Yep.
Which makes absolutely no sense on this road. So can we rezone some of this? Is that possible?
Sure. If town meeting votes it.
Okay, so, you know, to cut this property off here and say, all right, the village only goes to here and the rest of this is resident. I don't know how big of a fight it is, but it just doesn't make sense for these neighbors to be subjected to something that could go in there that has the potential.
You're so far out of town.
Yeah, I mean, it's so rural out there and it'd be unfortunate that anything that would go in here would have to be right up against the road. I think we've looked at that before with the mushroom.
Yeah, and that's a two-part thing. It's a village district, so it said it had to be no more than 25 feet from the road, and it was a Y because it was a commercial indoor horticultural or horticulture facility.
Yep.
Which is allowed with a Y on any parcel in Charlton.
But Kurt, the town water and sewer is not going down that far, is it? On Burlingame, like Town Farm Road,
No.
so it doesn't really make sense to have the village district go down that far anyways, because they don't have access to public utilities, so.
Now,
I mean, yes, anybody can build a septic and have a well, but it's really not the appropriate place for it.
no. So, look at what you call community business and see if your definition is right. I will suggest, and Randy and I have talked about that easterly portion of Route 20 on the northerly side, the line is not very far back at all and bifurcates a bunch of parcels in a weird way. Where it's 400 feet deep on the other side, on the southerly side. So,
yeah,
yep.
if you look,
it doesn't look like much can go in there unless it's right up against the road. And
but
yeah,
it's
and the further east you get, the narrower it gets.
and it's not even following lot lines in a lot of places, just cutting through the middle of properties. If it was lined up so it was one even line, it would actually follow the lot lines more appropriately. So some of these lots that are commercial on 20 are actually, the way the zone line is, they're commercial on the front part, but agriculture on the back part. And, they're all commercial properties.
yeah.
It would make sense to line up that zone line.
Okay. So there's probably some work. We know there's some work to do here on the map, and I'm not sure what the consensus of other people on the board want, but I think.
Well, could we just on that, where you're pointing, Don, and to Randy's point, could we just get a map of who owns what on that and just.
Yeah, that's just that area down there. Just give you an idea. It's where the quarter deck is, the car dealer, the Jackson, I think autos. That's the area where that is.
Jack's. Yeah. That's the back here. Yeah. Yep.
Well,
down in that area, that's where it's all. It
pretty
should
wet
be corrected down there, like to more match up the south side. And Kurt and I had actually reviewed the maps of this property lines where, if you just move the zoning boundary to follow the property lines, it would actually be pretty easy to fix.
Yeah, so we're talking about this area in here.
Yeah, I think right
from
below here, is that where?
So
yeah.
So it's even so this lot right here looks like it's half in and half out.
Yeah, there's a few of them that are like that. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I mean that doesn't even go all the way back. Okay.
So that'd be something we should do as a mapping change. I mean, it won't really change the district, but it's definitely a mapping change.
Yeah. This is a lot of work.
Yeah. That's why I see MRPC's getting paid so much.
Yeah, that's why it's always easier just to carve in some obscure new district and just draw a line than it is to reconsider the whole thing as a whole entity,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah. All right, so community business, to provide sites for businesses that serve the entire town and people and traffic passing through the town, which through proper siting, landscape design, create amenities to avoid amenities and avoid to the maximum extent possible the appearance of commercial strips and adverse impacts on abutting street uses.
Well, if you only give them a strip, to put it on, it's gotta be a strip, right?
Well, you know, I think the days of the strip malls are over, so I don't think we're gonna have to really worry about
No.
that too much. So the definition, I mean, unless Kurt has a comment on it, it seems to me that the definition actually fits pretty well with the district, or the intended purpose, I should say.
I think so. I think you might, want to look at some of the requirements for screening when it abuts a residential zone, which it's going to. I mean, almost all of it abuts, a residential zone. Some of it doesn't, but, and then, make it usable. And this is one of those ones that there's stuff that's allowed with a Y, but you say that it says through proper citing. So how do you get proper citing if there's not site plan review?
Kurt, are you recommending more screening or just appropriate screening? I mean, what was did you feel that more was necessary when it bus residential, or?
I think you need to look at what the requirement that is spelled out, and I don't think that there's a lot in community business that spells out screening between adjoining zones. I know IG and BEP have some extra stuff in it that says IG has to have 100 feet buffer zone from a residential zone. Now, I'm not saying in the community business zone you want to go to 100 feet, because now you're going to leave nothing left to the lot, even if it's 400 feet deep. It's tough.
It's maintain a buffer or create a buffer of X number of feet, for instance, something like that. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, if you redraw those zones, it's gonna give you more land to put these, for them to develop and hopefully put logically place a building on and have the buffer in the back.
Yeah. Well, if you zoom back in on that parcel that you were just on.
Yeah.
So that's the storage sheds. So go a little west.
Oh, wait a minute. Sorry.
It's all right. There you go. So that's all granite.
Yep.
Okay. And that's in a CB zone that abuts a residential zone.
Yeah.
And the people, and that was the subdivision you guys were talking about earlier today. And those people are looking into this pile of scrap marble.
Yeah. Does the CB zone go all the way back there, or?
That one I'd really have to look at on a map,
Yeah,
Actually, it's an unusual shape there, so it might. I don't know. Oh, am I looking in the right place?
Yeah, I think you were right on it. It's probably not, but it was.
Yeah. Okay.
Been there for many years.
Well, no, it's been built in my tenure, but it may have gotten.
I'm talking about all granite.
Yeah, they haven't been there.
Oh.
10 years.
Yeah, I think this building was newer than this building, if I remember right.
Yes. No, no. That building that you're showing was built first.
Oh, was it? Okay.
And then after he moved into that, he knocked the wooden shed down that was there that he was in.
Yeah, okay.
And built that building. And then his office was in, what is this sort of mixed use building that you're looking at now that's got the car repair
Yep.
guy and a few other things in it?
Yep.
So that's what I'm saying about CB and just making sure we have an appropriate buffer behind it.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should do that with any commercial zone or any commercial development should be better protect the residents within that area. Okay. All right. Back to this. It's getting late. Maybe we're not going to get through this tonight.
Yeah, what do you want to put a pause on it and move,
It's up to you. What time is it?
Yeah.
9 o'clock?
Yeah, actually, I'd like to spend some time because I don't know off the top of my head, but looking at the industrial general and the business enterprise zone, those are two zones that we should look at pretty hard because those are zones when it comes to new development in town, as far as some of the larger scale commercial development that we might see. We want to see how we do it the best way so it, fits the town, but also, works with any potential developers too. So, and I think that's like Kurt said, this one's going to highly involve the use table on what we should or should not do.
Yep. But as far as the intents and purposes, they seem pretty good as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
And then we just need to look at the use table to see what really fits into these things.
But the one thing, and I don't know if it's industrial general, we really never get a call for that type of thing. Well, actually, I want to take this back. Kurt, did we determine retail could be in an industrial general area, but not in business enterprise park?
Yeah, that seems right because we had to do special permitting for Treehouse to do retail.
Right. So but that's back again to the use table that
Yeah.
one thing business enterprise park is lacking, which, it'll be a discussion we'll have to have of whether we should allow retail in that district. Because the way it is now, it doesn't allow for retail. And I mean, most of these uses are coming through with either a special permit or at the very least site plan review from the board. So
I can put a hotel in community business, but I can't put a hotel in business park or something like that. I mean, there were some weird things with hotels.
So
that if you're going to build a business park, a lot of them would like to have a hotel in there too.
Right. So that's something I think we might want to look at, allowing more in the business enterprise park zone, because that's one zone.
But as far as the intents and descriptions go,
well, I think
do you
they're
see
good.
Any changes? Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah, Ross, we'll do whatever you want. You're the boss.
No, I mean, I think it makes sense what Randy said, that how some good amount of attention is going to be dedicated to the IG and BEP zone. So we might as well just set aside another time slot for that if that works for everyone.
Well, I think we'll have some time available at our February 17th meeting if you want to continue with it then, because the application we're getting, I have to notice and everything, and it's probably not going to be till March that we hear it.
Okay.
We have like a couple of A&Rs, but nothing, major at the next meeting.
All right. Perfect.
Yeah, I think we made great progress though, and thank you to Kurt for staying on. That was very helpful. I don't think we would have gotten as far as we did without his partner.
Yeah, Kurt has to deal with this every day, unfortunately, sometimes. Right, Kurt?
Yeah, I signed on for it. I really didn't know that when I signed on for it. But it was slow at first, and now it's gotten much more challenging, and I'm glad that I had a number of years of just regular residential stuff before we got into some of this contentious issues.
So maybe, hey Ross, maybe Kurt knows what this building is back here.
He probably will.
Out behind Carroll Hill and out behind the landscape place, in the middle of the woods, there's a steel building. It's all rusted and in the middle of the woods. Any idea what that used to be?
Yeah, I bet you that's the old gas plant. Quicklime, if I said the term quicklime, that you use when you make put acetylene. Acetylene tank doesn't just have acetylene in it, from my understanding. It has a medium in it, media in it. There we go, not a medium. That's, you know, the girl with the crystal ball. But yeah, the gas plant. And I have a good friend of mine who took a all-wheel, six-wheel drive fire engine out there and buried it in the quicklime 25 years ago. So.
Okay. I was, you know, hiking down the Mid-State Trail, I saw that, and I've always wondered what that was. Okay.
That's my guess anyway.
I'll go with it. All right.
Good night, folks.
Thank you, Kurt. You as well. Have a great night.
Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you, Kurt.
Thank you.
All right. So does anyone have any, or Maureen, do you have any business that came up before the agenda came out?
No, there's no new business. Everybody saw the obituary for Jane's mother-in-law. She passed away yesterday morning, so that was supposed to, so we shared that today. Services will be on Friday. Sending out the town hall sent out a card and flowers. I'm also going to send one. I'll send one out from the board as well. So.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone have anything else?
Yeah, I just have one thing. Did anybody else get a copy of the letter from McKay?
No.
Attorney McKay?
No.
Regarding?
Hold on, I'm trying to find it here. I had it set aside.
Is this a mailed letter, or are you talking about the email, Gene?
It was an email. And it was a letter that they sent. You guys got me sidetracked here and I lost my pile here. Hold on. Okay, McKay sent a letter to the land court, February 1st. On closing for a filing in the above referenced matter, they're seeking to joint motion to extend the scheduling order and continuing the status conference. I think they're just trying to extend something 60 days till March 31st.
Now, is this solar, Gene?
No, this is VGG.
Okay.
I think that was the result.
Everybody else had gotten that.
Oh, is this this is the subdivision? This isn't the site plan. This must be the subdivision.
I think so. Depositions for the party.
I believe you're correct.
Okay.
It's given time
Yeah, they're
to.
just looking for an extension is basically what's happening. They were supposed to be scheduled for the February 8th and 10th. And they wanted to move it to March 31st.
Probably hoping to get a site plan determination by
that time.
Yeah, that's probably what.
Okay, I just thought if anybody hadn't seen it, I'd let you know about it. And if you did, figure out what the heck's still going on with that. Okay.
The other thing is, I know that requesting time to do a traffic study. I don't know if that's happening, but.
Okay. And the other thing, do we have a meeting next Wednesday with Ron at 11 o'clock?
Yes, for
Okay,
the workshop committee.
yeah. Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay,
All right, I got one thing, Randy, on the cell tower there at the intersection Route 20 and Center Depot Road, there's a flag. I know that Jane will probably have the
Oh,
contact info, just to know if I'm at the flag's pretty shredded. I was looking at today.
yes, I actually sent the field rep that was in charge of this is gone. He's no longer there, so I actually sent a registered certified mail to the vice president of the company, because I can't, everybody keep pushing me up, and it got returned to me last Thursday. So now I have to reach out to them again, and I'm trying to find out who can I talk to, and I feel like I'm getting blown off, to be honest with you, but the person who was the go-to person before no longer works for them. So I've had a very difficult time trying to get somebody to actually deal with it. Everybody keeps
Are they
saying,
under contract? They're under contract to provide that flag and
Maintain it.
maintain it? Oh,
Yeah,
did not know that.
yeah. I
yes,
believe,
that one and the one on Dresser Hill.
I wonder, since I think that is Cornerstone Bank, they the landlord for that?
Yes, they are. Actually, you know, I know Sabrina Webb, the manager over there. Maybe she could help me with that.
Back info there for them. They might help you out.
Yeah.
All right, does anyone else have anything else here?
Ross, I know
Don?
we're talking about your first item.
Yes, yes.
I would think just reaching out, if he bought the property before the lines were installed,
Yeah,
obviously he's looking for a way not to light up his subdivision without going and trying to hook up either broken conduit or non-existent conduit. So maybe an honest discussion with him to just have him come clean and see what it's all about. The bottom line is the lights have got to get on, and I know we've tried to accommodate him 10 ways to Sunday.
right.
It's a little ridiculous. You know, it's like we're trying to give him every effort to come good faith to us, and if he's not doing it, then it's not going to happen, obviously.
I agree.
Right. So I'll try to get him. We'll put him on at the beginning of the next meeting, and I'll try to get him to. And I thought he was going to be here tonight, but I will tell him that I highly suggest that he attends the next meeting because they want to discuss the lighting with him and what the status is of it before we make a determination. So he'll have a heads up on why he's going to be here. So maybe he can answer some questions. And in the meantime, I will try to see if I can get any numbers on what it would cost should the town pull the bond and do it.
All right. Is there anything else? All right, do we have a motion to
motion
adjourn?
to adjourn?
I'll second.
All right, all those in favor, Gene Vincent.
Aye.
Elise Zick. Elise is gone. John Smith.
Just before, I'd like to thank Don for help today. Thank you, Don.
Yeah. Don,
Oh,
that's
no problem.
very useful putting it on the screen. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. No problem at all.
Bye.
Don Clay.
Aye.
Joe Fontaine.
Aye.
Ross Lemansky, aye. All right, you guys have a great rest of the week.
You
Yeah,
too.
you too. Thanks.
See you guys.
You guys.
Good night.
Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Okay.